To talk about the protests that are going on by Just Stop Oil. We've heard, as you heard in the news as well, 2 protesters are still suspended from the QE2 bridge above the M25 for the second day in a row. The traffic once again brought to a halt in the area. The Just Stop Oil campaigners are dangling from the Dartford crossing using ropes after first climbing up at about 3:50 yesterday morning. And of course the police are there but cannot predict how long the bridge is expected to be closed for. Now, the protests from this group have resulted in multiple arrests, with more than 70 activists facing criminal charges. We know about them scaling the bridge, and of course they are meeting every single day as part of a much wider plan of disruption which will continue for the rest of the month. Now, the website for Just Stop Oil says it's a coalition of groups working together to ensure the government commits to halting new fossil fuel licensing and production. The climate activist organisation is formed of several groups, with organisers from Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain at the helm. Joining me now is Emma Brown, who is a Just Stop Oil spokesperson. Good morning to you.
Good morning, David. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. I'm really keen to understand what is going through your heads.
So I don't know if you're aware, David, but we're in a climate emergency. We saw 40-degree heat this year, and there's a report out a couple of days ago that farmers are worried that if the drought that we're in right now continues, next year the crops will be severely affected. And this is happening worldwide. This is really a threat to our lives, to our food systems, to our water systems, and to the ability for us to survive, the coming decades. So it's a really serious situation. And obviously this government is showing itself to be completely incompetent. And these years are really crucial. And that is why we are saying we cannot have any new fossil fuel licenses. And if the government won't listen to the UN, the International Energy Agency, if they won't even listen to their own advisors, like their own scientific advisors, and to their own climate change committee, if they've been found guilty in the High Court, who is holding them to account? And that is why ordinary citizens are having to step up and say, we're not going to take this anymore.
Listen, let me just pause you for a minute. I admire the fact that you feel so passionately about this, but, and I understand, and the government...
I think everybody should be feeling passionate.
Let me just finish.
You're not worried about this.
Let me just finish. So the fact is that the government committed to net zero at 2050. I'm just wondering whether you are aware that there is a problem in terms of the energy crisis in this country, the real hardship that is hurting working families in this country. We're seeing energy bills spiral to 6,000. I've seen people who cannot afford to eat, people who cannot afford to put their heating on. When you look at the way that we're producing our energy right now, nearly 70% of our energy this morning is coming from fossil fuels, and the renewables make up only 11%. It is pie in the sky thinking to think renewables can fill that gap.
So, David, there was a couple of points there, I think. The first is, obviously, we are in a cost of living crisis, and that is caused by the fact we have a privatised energy system where companies are making £170 billion of excess profit over 2 years from UK citizens. This is obscene. We need to nationalise the energy system. And at the moment, renewables are 9 times cheaper than oil and gas. And also,
they don't deliver the energy we need.
But they will if we invest in them. And also, it's a really important point that investing in new oil and gas will not drive down the prices. The government have even admitted that, because they don't come online for 10, 20 years. So they do nothing to solve this current cost of living crisis. And also... That simply isn't true.
I'm sorry to stop you.
The thing is that renewables are also so much quicker.
I'm sorry, that is utter...
And wind energy take even from 6 weeks to 6 months to build the biggest solar farm and the biggest wind farm. So that could be doing a massive amount to bring down bills, insulating our homes so we don't literally just let the heat... like my nan used to say, don't heat the sky.
I agree.
It makes sense. So why aren't we doing a massive insulation program? Why aren't we switching to renewables, which is massively cheaper? This would help solve the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis. We need to be protecting ourselves. We need to be protecting our families, and this is the way to do it.
Let me just interject here, and with the greatest of respect, just in terms of where we're going, what you said is incorrect. In fact, we are sitting on... Let me just explain. We are sitting on £1 to £2 trillion of gas, and I believe passionately we should frack in the short term, get that gas out, get the energy prices down, and look after people. Let me just move on to one other point. I'm a doctor. I watched with horror as your lot blocked sick children getting to hospital in the back of an ambulance. I think that is abhorrent behaviour.
So we have a blue light policy and we do let ambulances through. Like, if people were delayed for a few minutes, that is terrible, you know, when we apologise for any disruption to the emergency services, we do have a blue light policy. But the fact of the matter is we need to be looking where we're directing that outrage. The amount of the defunding of the NHS, the massive wait times for ambulances. That's not true.
That's not true.
It is true.
It is not true. The NHS got up.
There's been 330,000 excess deaths due to these austerity policies by the Conservative government.
I'm sorry.
They have cut our service to the bone. Nurses are leaving in their droves.
That is true.
That is really what we need to be focusing our
If you'd let me just correct your facts, 176 billion was spent on the NHS last year and another 36 billion on COVID. No, I'm talking about the fact that the NHS is actually adequately funded. The money doesn't hit the floor and doesn't hit the patient.
Look adequately funded. I'm sure your viewers will know it's not adequately funded.
It is simply not true.
Anyway, this is not what we're here to talk about.
Do you think it's... Let me just ask you, is it acceptable that you destroy the lives of people who are trying to get to work across the Dartford Bridge, trying to earn a living, trying to put food on the table? You think it's okay, do you, to stick yourselves in the tunnel and up a bridge?
Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's okay that it was 40-degree heat in London this year? What's it going to be like next year? 45 degrees? What's it going to be like in 10 years? 50 degrees? This is the problem that we're facing right now. This is the problem we're facing. It's so serious.
Let's look at
It's so serious, and your viewers know it, and the majority of the British public are really worried, and the majority of the British public know that our government is not doing enough. They're in fact doing the opposite.
Well, let me just tell you what our viewers are saying.
The flames of the fire by investing more in fossil fuels, which we know are heating the planet, and they're going to cause mass suffering.
Very quickly.
People don't do this action unless there's a problem. The problem is not that we're doing the action. The problem is that...
Very quickly, if I may just interject, the United Kingdom is a very small part of this world. Perhaps you should concentrate your efforts in China, where they're building another 200 coal-fired power stations. I'll tell you what our viewers are saying. Why does the traffic stop just because idiots find it's okay to climb on a bridge? Hose them down. We cannot be held hostage by these morons. That is what people are saying. They're saying these people are lunatics and people need to be very careful. I am deeply worried that people are going to take the law into their own hands, and I think some of you may get hurt.
Well, we're non-violent, and that's a really important principle. You know, we don't want to be holding people, hostage, anything like that. Obviously, we're completely non-violent, and you've seen that. We just sit and we take whatever people want to throw at us. It's really important, and we are willing to be arrested. People need to really think, why are we willing to do that? Like, I used to work in a library. Why am I doing this? It's because it's really serious, and it's because I'm really worried about the people in this country and the people around the world. And if people are angry at us and they throw that at us, we'll just take it. If the Home Secretary wants to throw us in prison rather than do the obvious moral thing, then they can do that. But the fact of the matter,
I have to stop you. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for coming on. That's Emma Brown, who's a Just Stop Oil spokesperson.